Exactly what it needs to. I know. Not a surprise.
We ask that you all please be seated. Please be seated. Find a seat, please. And the prelude is one of Margie's favorites, Pachelbel's Canon. You're up, Jerry.
It's my turn. You would get an announcement or something. Good God. First of all, this is a bit of an ad lib, but if I remember right, that was the song we marched down the aisle to at our wedding. And it's always been, Pachelbel's Canon has always been a favorite of Margie's. It always has. So that's an ad lib from my written thing here. First of all, I want to welcome everybody to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Door County, and thank you all for being here. It's incredible to see so many people here. Before I say more, I have to put some special thank yous out to the Door County community this community has supported me through these very, very difficult times, unbelievably so. And there's no way I can ever thank or repay this community for what they're doing for me. And I want to give a special thank you to Dawn Volpe, who organized this, Sarah McKillick, the administrator here, who's, without her help, we would have never gotten this done. And although there were a lot, I talk with my hands, although there were a lot of people who did a lot for the treats that are here and all, I want to give a special thanks to two people. One, Lori Baum, who organized all the treats, and then Renee White, who did more than anybody in this world could have done for me. So the two of you, a special thank you. That said, again, welcome to the Unitarian Fellowship of Door County. This is where it gets hard. Margie and I first came up here in 1974 when she was pregnant with William and John was a toddler. It didn't take too many visits up here to Door County to realize what a special place this is. We came up from Northbrook many summers and winters during the 70s and early 80s. It was during those visits that we decided this is where we would like to retire to. So in 2012, we sold our house in Northbrook and moved here. Since we moved, we've never had a moment's regret. This community is unbelievable. Margie and I were college sweethearts. Our first date was in June of '68. People who know the story of our first date know how unusual a date it was. And when we get back, someday I'll tell you everybody else who doesn't know it. But within 3 weeks of that first date, we were sort of hooked on each other. And then by the fall of '68, we were hopelessly in love with each other. In spite of all the ups and downs, trials and tribulations of 54 years of marriage, the depths of our love for each other never faltered. Her health issues over the years, as everybody knows, were absolutely daunting. Her never give up positive attitude was an inspiration for me and for everybody who knew her. It was her love of life and that undying spirit during all those difficult times that got us through those times. And that spirit of hers through all those difficult times just made me love her all the more. And we had a wonderful, lots of ups and downs, but we had a wonderful marriage. And it was that spirit of hers that kept us going. And now we are all here to celebrate and honor that spirit. So that's my welcome to everybody.
And it has been my honor to get to know Margie through the eyes of her beloved. Would you stand with me as you are able, as we read responsively, and then remain standing for the hymn? In the rising of the sun and its going down, in the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, in the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, in the blueness of the sky and in the warmth of summer, in the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, in the beginning of the year and when it ends, when we are weary and in need of strength, when we are lost and sick at heart, when we have joys we yearn to share. Yes, we remember you. So long as we live, Margie too shall live, for she is a part of all who have known her. Let us sing together, In the Bulb There is a Flower. In the bulb there is a flower, in the seed an apple tree, in cocoons a hidden promise, butterflies will soon be free. In the cold and snow of winter, there's a spring that waits to be unrevealed until its season. Something hope alone can see. There's a song in every silence, seeking word and melody. There's a song in every darkness, bringing hope to you and me. From the past will come the future, what it holds a mystery. Unrevealed until its season, something love alone can see. Please be seated. Fred, John, and William will be speaking on behalf of the family.
Well, speaking of my mother, anyone who knew us always knew that we were, to use the term, at loggerheads because of our similarity and our love of each other. I just want to give a sort of a general example of this. In her always wanting or always being right. Anyone who ever got into a deep conversation with her or knew that that deep conversation could frequently turn into an argument, and we knew how that went. She'd rarely back down, and those and for myself, I have some of that too. And those similarities would quite frequently end in a bit of a heated argument. I could have learned from those things. I could have learned anything. And I could have learned to argue with that same vigor with everyone. But in contrast, what it taught me to both do that and to be much more conciliatory in arguments and to be more conciliatory with people. I'm not sure if this was what she intended to instill in me, but it's what it is. I learned, one, to win an argument, but I think from that I also inadvertently learned how to compromise with others. I loved our similarities and how it brought us together, and I think in a way it made me the best person that I could be. And I have one other sort of unscripted thing I have to share is that we've always have conversations about her and how there was never a soft closed anything that she couldn't overcome. Anyone who has ever spent time with her realized that she could. I don't understand how the physics work, but she could slam a soft closed door of any form. From our conversation today, it struck me that I had to share that.
So I'm Fred Lowinger, Margaret's maiden name, Lowinger. And Margaret was my sister, and I know most of you knew my sister as Margie. For whatever reason, our immediate family always called her Margaret. I can't explain why the immediate family used the more formal name, but I do know that whether you knew her as Margie or Margaret, she was the same loving, wonderful, and caring person that we all miss. So I was the youngest sibling in a family of 3, and Margaret was the oldest. She always introduced me to others as her baby brother. That made sense because if she were here with us today, she would be 9 years older than me. With that large an age gap, our time together at our family home in Highland Park, Illinois, was limited. I was probably in 4th grade when she went off to college, University of Illinois, and met Jerry. I wish I could remember more of my early years with Margaret, but I can't. However, Margaret would often tell me and others that when I was a baby, perhaps when we lived on the south side, where we left when I was 2, the south side of Chicago, she and her friends would treat me as a doll, and from time to time, dress me up as a girl. Today, I suppose in some parts of this country, the morality police would regard that as highly inappropriate, if not violative of some nutty law. And if Margaret were here with us today, I know how she would quickly respond. She would very loudly and with an expletive state that those so offended should commit some unnatural act on themselves. But as the words would leave her mouth, she would be brightly smiling and loudly laughing, because that was who Margaret was. She rarely held back. If she had a view, which she usually did, about someone or something, you would hear it straight from her mouth. And we love that, and we will all miss it. Although most of our lives were separated by geography and the large gap in age, we would frequently speak and also see each other at family events. Regrettably, some of my strongest memories are of the medical challenges Margaret struggled with throughout her adult life. When I was still at home in Highland Park, living alone with my parents, I remember one terrible evening. I was in high school or junior high, and I was about to go to bed. My parents said they were heading to a hospital because Margaret had been in a horrible head-on car collision, hit by a drunk driver. I remember worrying for hours through the night that I would never see her again. She was, in fact, badly injured, but she pulled through. And I suspect that, as would be the case many times over, she survived because she was a fighter who would never give up. That became much more evident years later, likely the early 80s, when she was confronted with the news that she had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Again, she approached it with a determination and cheerfulness that was extraordinary. Chemo and the like led to remission, but several years later, the cancer recurred. And her doctors at the University of Chicago informed her that nothing more could be done, and her days were numbered. Well, Margaret would hear nothing of it. Scouring the country, she and Jerry found a doctor in Boston at Dana-Farber, Dr. Nadler, who was trying an experimental approach to this type of cancer, what we today refer to as autonomous bone marrow transplants. She signed on for this experimental approach. She went to Boston for months and endured the treatment, which back then was quite painful and difficult and long. She had to be isolated in a germ-free room for weeks. Our mom moved to Boston for almost 2 months to be at her side. I remember visiting Margaret, and I was only able to see and talk to her through a glass pane. She remarked after the procedure that had she known how unbearable it would be, she might not have elected to pursue it. That procedure in 1987 brought Margaret another 36 years of life, which we are so grateful for. Although, as predicted by the doctor at the time, saving her life then would likely produce significant life-threatening health issues down the road. And there were many. Undoubtedly the result of the extraordinary radiation that preceded the bone marrow transplant. But in each case, whether it was breast cancer, a weak heart, prediabetes, you name it, Margaret had the same attitude. Life is good, I got a great family, and this is just an annoyance that I will power through. And until December 1 of last year, that's what she did. Power through the biggest challenges with determination and unbounded optimism. As you know, Margaret and Jerry are fond of animals. Well, for me, Margaret was the cat with 9 lives. Each time she was told that she was at the end of one, she had the willpower to add another. And until the end, apart from her family, her highest priority was returning the favor to that doctor and hospital in Boston, Dr. Nadler at Dana-Farber, who had given her more than 3 decades of additional life. She did so relentlessly, year in, year out, with Jerry. They marched each year and otherwise, in so many ways, did an extraordinary level of fundraising for Dana-Farber. It was a passion, and it made such sense, and she was great at it. The last several months of Margaret's life were extremely challenging. But again, she made every effort to enjoy life and lift up everyone around her. Indeed, in the very last couple of months, she would go in and out of the hospital repeatedly. She didn't want that to bother me, so almost every time she would wait until she was discharged or the signs were positive, and she would then text me something such as, "I thought you should know that I have been in intensive care over the last week." Wherever I was, I would immediately call her, and I then had a long call with someone who I could never imagine had just escaped another brush with death days before. Well, finally, Margaret's physical self, despite her unbounded determination, couldn't overpower the laws of nature. And while that has been so painful for all of us, what we do not know is that nature can't destroy the memories that we can now carry of someone who fought as hard as anyone to enjoy life to its fullest, make us smile, and show extraordinary love for family and friends. We will miss Margaret forever, but never forget her and find inspiration in our fond memories of her.
That was amazing. I'm William. I'm son number 2, the youngest. And I got a little bit to say too. It's gonna be a little bit more, hopefully, laugh tracky. So first off, thank you everyone for coming. The importance of this community of friends, all the way family, everyone, thank you so much for being here. I'm gonna talk about some of my mom's unique qualities. You've heard some of them and expand on them a little bit. Some mom musings and just some overall warm memories. The obituary was much more organized. This will be kind of like an obituary sneeze. So let's start first. Well, let's cut to it. My mom, she's late. She's always late. She's pathologically late. My mom and concept of time is like ships passing in the night. So, you know how you learn from examples your parents set so you don't repeat them? Well, this is a prime example. So going into today, in order to properly honor my mom, let my mom's spirit know that the service actually started at 1:30. So if she was going to be somewhere in our midst, she could time it out accordingly. We did that when she was alive. So if there was a reservation or something important, just adjust the time a little bit. So might as well continue to do it now. I'm assuming she would like that joke. Maybe. We'll see. We'll talk more about some important things about her, which is compassion. Compassion for others. She taught me at a young age to see things from other people's perspective. Often I'd come home from school and bitching and moaning about something, how I had been wronged, somebody was mean, annoying, how it just wasn't fair. And I knew it was going to happen because it's what she would do. It was inevitable. She'd talk about seeing things from their perspective. You know, why do you think they acted that way? What's going on in their life? Is there a way that I could help them? So, as a parent, this doesn't happen too often, especially because we're all our own worst critics. This is one of those definitive times when, as a parent, that you know you're right, and she was totally right. That was a great quality. So, let's transition from compassion to a little bit something else that was so my mom. When you hear this on the heels of the compassion quality, it's more of a further window into my mom, and that's grudges. She could hold one. You're not sure why or how a person got on her grudge list, but you were going to learn about it. And she maintained that grudge with just crystal clear clarity. I think that works. We'll see it does. A couple quick grudge examples. People, towns, cities, foods, stores, restaurants, hotels, service providers only available by phone, certain health professionals, and certain politicians. Her grudge holding was also by proxy. If you told her a frustrating experience, something about somewhere or with someone, she just added to her own grudge list on your behalf. Another way to say that is actually she's fiercely loyal. And anybody that's family or loved ones, you know that. So, I just talked about the whole learn from your parents so you don't repeat it. Let's just forget that gobbledygook for just a little bit more, because a good old-fashioned grudge. I learned it from her. I love having a grudge list. It's very important. She would be proud. Later, drink in hand, we can discuss some of my mom's most favorite grudges. Related to grudges, or my mom's opinions. She always had them. You didn't necessarily need to ask her about them because you were going to learn about them. She was not a take it or leave it type of person. And a couple of words that you don't really ever hear from my mom was meh or nah. So, all right, sorry, we're getting there. My mom loved to have fun. She was thrilled to share the fun, and it came in many forms. If you liked to have fun and wanted to include her, well, you were a friend for life. She loved her friends. You all knew it. Evidence of her fun, we already touched on it, was her laughter. It was a blast when you got to her, and she would howl with laughter. There were so many tears from laughter, and then she would just abuse the nearest Kleenex box. And that was always like yes, made her laugh. It's great. A love of the outdoors. She instilled that on myself and my brother at a very young age, often by force. If there was nice weather of any type of weather, just get outside. There was minimal accountability, just as long as we came back later, just much, much later. This led to all sorts of exploration and mischief and creativity and independence, much of which you'd be thrilled about to hear afterwards. She also taught us competence in the kitchen, and this might have been as a result of her battling cancer during her formative years, or maybe building our independence, or just forcing us to be useful. There's a good freaking skill. except for her reliance on like onion powder and everything and artificial sweeteners. Come on, Mom. Reading, she was great. Loved books, and she wasn't one to spoil us, but if anything came close to it, it was, books. And she loved to read and share with us. And she was also a whiz about games, word games, crossword puzzles, and certainly Trivial Pursuit. If you ever played, you lost to her. You always wanted to be on her team. A couple more quick hitters because they're already taking a while. One, because it would take too long, and two, the other one's not too appropriate, is one that take too long is the love of animals. I mean, duh. They're married to a veterinarian, and we know the extent of my mom's love for animals. The other one is my mom's gifts, mom gifts. They're one of a kind, to say the least. We could probably share some stories about some of them, but again, not necessarily the right environment. But Dad, if you want to try to fill that category, just so you know, it's not possible. It'd be funny to watch you try and fail, but she'd certainly get a laugh out of that. It wasn't mentioned. It was mentioned in her obit. If you knew Margie, you were going to know Margie. This was especially true with her health issues. So many details, all the details. I kind of got to reference The Simpsons. It's a great show, one of the best shows, and I don't know why my parents never liked that show. It's unforgivable, but that's why we'll move on. There's a great scene involving the ancient old evil nuclear power plant owner, Montgomery Burns. He goes for his physical, and essentially he gets explained to him that he has every disease and illness possible. All these illnesses and diseases are trying to attack him all at once, so he essentially gets stuck in the doorway, and they can't get to him. So that kind of leaves them alive and carrying on. I kind of always thought that was my mom, an ancient evil nuclear power plant owner. Dad joke. No, keep up with me. I always thought she would be able to face all these health issues and carry on. I just thought there would be more time. So that's the hard part. Not to see me get older or crankier, but to see her grandkids continue to flourish. Brandon, you got a heart as big as this room. I know your parents have a long list of future accomplishments and future moments that they'd want to share with my mom. But I'm here, I got the mic, so I'm going to talk about my two kids, her grandkids, Ezra and Lily. So I wanted her to see my grandkids, or her grandkids, flourish. For example, I wanted to see how, if possible, she could get a consistent internet connection so she could live stream one of her granddaughter's concerts, choir concerts in college. Or it'd be pretty cool if she was able to go visit Lily's McAllister College campus and see and hear her sing in person. And Lily, we're going to skip ultimate frisbee because my mom never would have understood that in the least. But we wanted her to see Lily graduate college and all of her nexts and all of her after that's, and for her to be in that loud gym on Ezra's senior night for basketball, just to hear the loud crowd and watch him play, see him qualify for state and field track and field championships, and then like next weekend, see him graduate high school. And to be able to tell her that Ezra got into and he's going to go to UW in the fall, and all of his next and all of his after that. But I do know that if we told my mom that Ezra got into college at UW, she'd say, I knew it was going to happen. It's her faith. My mom's strength to battle, it's unparalleled resilience to beat cancer or whatever was next. My mom wasn't big on giving in. She had such a stubbornness to never conform to being just a patient. She was a tireless advocate for herself. And once she was in her hard-fought and lengthy remission, she would work just as hard to fundraise for future cures. She had a dedication to being healthy and living the time given to her. A lot of those same, mostly adjectives, strength, resilience, advocate, fundraiser, dedicated, seem a lot in someone else. Her partner in crime, in life? You. Okay? You deserve to hear that. The spotlight is on you for these couple of sentences. So you hear those adjectives and you know that. And you're here to hear that because you're alive and we love you. So know that. To the community, thank you for your support and the connection that they've made. You lovely people, thank you. It meant a ton to her and it continues to mean the world to my dad. An example of some of that love and appreciation my mom had for the Door County community. I'm going to kind of take you through a phone call quickly. I know that's not likely any phone conversation with my mom, but I'll try to make it typically. I'm almost done. But a phone conversation with my mom was typically one-sided. Be a couple of quick pleasantries, maybe. A quick, nor not, intense health update. And then she was off to the races. Questionable whether she would take deep breaths or not, but she would just talk about, so many people in the community, so-and-so this, so-and-so that, and then she'd describe, of course, where they lived, which county highway, which church they were near, which store they were near, which business they ran, or which store they were working at, where they met, which community events they go to together, often about their daughter or son, and like 16 other things related to what they did, and how often they had dinner with them, what their favorite drinks were. Often they had the same ear doctor, loved the same, definitely liberal. So in closing, we're going to miss her energy. But the great thing about being who she was is all that energy. And she kind of left us with residual Margie leftovers. They're in all sorts of places, all over, strange places, but they're everywhere. And it shows her effectiveness to connect, how she left her mark, and how she made herself remembered. And that works for me. So what that means is don't be done celebrating her memory. Please, not today and not in the future. So thanks.
At this time, we're going to invite people to share very brief memories. At some point, I might have to cut you off, and if I do, I apologize, but we can continue memories in the gathering room. So if there's a grandchild or family member.
Hi, I'm Katrina, and I first met Margie in June of 1998. Does that sound right, dear? And I kind of felt like a fish out of water. I'm from somewhat rural Iowa. I had literally worked like that day in a corn milling plant and, left my hard hat and name on my shirt at home and came in with John and his friend. Actually, that was the first time I met you guys as well. Well, not you guys yet. You were on somewhere along the way, but you were married, but it was 98 because I think it was. No worries. But admittedly, I kind of felt like a fish out of water because and Margie was lovely and accepting and was like a second mom. So we will miss her. And best story to this day is their Cosmo I had adopted and found out I was deathly allergic to. And we went out with the boat and Jerry and came back and he took over the house. And she's like, oh, no, take him home. But then my favorite was calling her crying from the parking lot of the allergy doctor because I couldn't keep him. And she's like, oh, honey, I'm so sorry. So give her credit. She's probably in the background. So we will miss her. And you have not lived until you are getting on the Edens. And she is putting her Jeep into power shift mode and flossing her teeth. She could do it.
So I'm Brandon, her oldest grandchild. I'm gonna try and be quick with my joke. with what she said to me and Piggly Wiggly. But before I get there, I just I just want to say that the one thing I liked about Margie is that she was very understanding and very helpful, given my past and moving in with my parents. And when I was like 10, I only knew her for 12 years, which is a little short, but I'll tolerate it because sometimes you can have a little bit too much Margie, so it's okay though. But I, the one thing I like to say, especially, is whenever we were at family gatherings, I was typically the only person of color there, which is not bad, but I was hopeful for a little bit more diversity, but I digress. So what I want to get at is I saw her last September, and I wish I could have gave her a tighter hug, but it was towards the end of the trip that we went to the pig, and I'm with my mom, and I'm walking down the side where the chicken is and all the fruits are, and I'm walking away, and all I hear is, "Hey Brandon, here's some fried chicken. You want some?" I look at her and I go, "What?" She didn't have her hearing aids in, so I don't think she was really thinking about it much. And I kept going and did my thing. And next thing I hear is, "Hey, you want some watermelon?" And I go, "Oh, geez." Everyone's staring at her, and I'm just waiting for a great Kool-Aid or some other thing, like maybe like some beer or something. And I get back to their house after this, and I bring it up to Margie, and I go, "Hey, do you understand what you said in the pig, like, at all?" And she's like, "No, no, what I do?" And I go, "Grandma, I'm black. Like, you brought up fried chicken and watermelon, two stereotypical things, which I don't like that much, but it's still funny." And the truth is, from that experience, is that I'd like to say is Jerry and Margie didn't really see color. Like, they kind of just accepted you for who you are, and only after they look at you they go, "Oh, yeah, I forgot you're a little colored, but that's okay." But all I wanted to say is that the joke was just it hit not necessarily home, but it just meant that Margie was a very caring person, and if she had her hearing aid, she probably wouldn't have said it as loud, but she would have she might have been like, "Hey, there's some chicken here and some watermelon if you want some." So I'll always love Margie, and I regret that I didn't say I love her as loudly as I could have, but it's just nice to know that she really deeply cared, even though I'm not technically her blood. I will always be, related. Yeah. So that's all I had to say. Sorry if the joke kind of was a little racist, but
Or you can pass it around.
No, I can go. So, I mean, I wasn't really thinking about speaking good like 15 minutes ago, but just in following after Brandon, when kind of our last and kind of most recent memory, we were at the hospital in Green Bay for Thanksgiving, and it was nice. Everyone was in pretty good spirits, I thought, for the moment, and I was feeling pretty happy. And there was a good day. The Packers-Lions game was on, kind of like any other Thanksgiving, and we were all kind of watching it while having a bunch of conversations. Everybody was, like I said, in pretty good spirits, and the game it goes to a commercial break, and everyone else is kind of just like not really focused on anything, but Margie, her eyes are on the TV, and there's a commercial. Rob Lowe's in this commercial, and he's an actor, a nice handsome actor, and I don't know why this kind of stuck with us so well. It's kind of become like a family joke, which he said, hey, Rob Lowe, what a nice Jewish boy. and I think we concluded that he's not Jewish, and we don't exactly know if he's nice, but I thought it was a funny kind of anecdote, and it also kind of represented her personality, that she she was able to just lighten the mood kind of in any circumstances. Even when her health wasn't great, I don't know, she was able to capture the room and kind of get everybody laughing. And what she saw in Rob Lowe, maybe not if it was true, but you know, she saw good things in everybody is kind of the moral of the story.
I think connected to her love of animals, I have a few recent memories where she would be telling me all about how she supposedly befriended multiple chipmunks in the backyard. And I enjoyed listening to that. I guess this is sort of just a little stream of consciousness of the most potent memories I have of her. But I remember my last birthday, she and I basically went out on the town and walked into all these super crowded touristy shops. And I remember she was also telling me about how fast she was driving on the way there on all these side streets that I'd never seen before, but she knew all of them and most of the people who lived on them, which I thought was pretty cool. And I tried to humor her and ask questions about all of these people. And I think I kept some of them straight. I don't know. We'll see. And I also have memories of her seemingly occasionally out of the blue phone calls or phone calls on any of my birthdays, which were less out of the blue. And what was a 10-minute conversation became roughly an hour. And yeah, I guess I wish I could have lingered on those a little longer or savored the moments in them a little more, just sort of considering where we are today. But I'm glad for those moments and all the silliness and togetherness they bring with them.
Is there any other family members who would like to say a few words before we conclude?
I'm Howie, Jerry's brother, and Margie's brother-in-law for a lot of years, it seems like. And I think it's almost enough already because I'm tired of sitting here and I don't like long services and I know there's good stuff to eat afterwards. So just real briefly, when I was thinking about this, just kind of three things that really kind of stick out to me when I think of Margie, and in no particular order. The first is what everybody's heard for the last, seems like way too long because I'm bored of sitting, and that is nothing trumped the family. I mean, that's Margie, and boy, like got lost. Like somebody said, do not cross them because if you do, you're on that wrong list. And you do not want to be on the wrong list. And that probably trumps everything. The second thing, when I think of Margie, because it seems like forever ago that you went to Boston and she had the transplant. And every year we'd get those goddamn letters from Dana-Farber. That it's another walk. Lee and I would say, now how much are we going to give this year, basically? But her, in the same way that she fought for her family, boy, she fought for anybody who was downtrodden. And Dana-Farber was just like, I'd never heard of it before her. And suddenly, because of Margie, it seemed like the whole world knew about Dana-Farber and the Jimmy Walk and things like that. And I just, boy, if there was a cause, she just grabbed onto it and never gave up. And the last thing just to say, and I think, Fred, you were kind of talking about it before, is God, how she loved this community. And when my brother, my nice Jewish boy brother would talk about he's going to retire up to Door County, Wisconsin and fish and things like that, it's like, where the heck does this come from? But to listen to Margie talk about the door, God, it was something that I never really understood. And I finally, I think, understood back in December after Margie passed away, when Lee and I came up here to visit my brother, how all he was doing was complaining about, oh no, another darn phone call. Will people just leave me alone already? And I don't have any more room in the refrigerator, in the freezer for all the food that everybody is bringing me. And so as his brother and as Margie's brother-in-law, I just want to say to everybody up here, thank you so much, really, for giving him this community, because I can't think of a place where Margie was ever happier and where he's ever been happier. And I'm so happy that he's in the bosom of all you people up here, that it's just wonderful. Thank you.
The family is going to come and lead us in the mourner's Kaddish.
The mourner's Kaddish is a prayer that is at the conclusion of virtually every Jewish service, and especially at the Jewish high holidays. It's a prayer basically to honor those who have passed before us. And at a service, if you didn't have a recent relative or friend who had passed, the Kaddish would always be said for the 6 million. And it existed long before that. So we are going to read it in the Hebrew, because the English version of it just doesn't speak to what it is like the Hebrew does. Okay? Are you ready? I'll put it on my head. Pop it on there. Ready? Yiskadal v'yiskadash shemei rabah v'alma divra hirusei v'limich malchusei hayom yom echon v'chayei dekol beit ish Yisrael b'agalah v'almakori v'yamru amen. Yehei shmei rabba mavorach olam omei omaya Yisbarach v'yishtabach v'yispoar v'yismoran v'yisnasei Yisadar, Yisalel, Yisalal, Shemei Kucho, Richu. Le'olam, Min Kol Birsha, Yuchasa, Nechemasa, Dami Miran, V'yamah, V'yamru, Amen. Hey Shlomo Rabba, Min Shemaya, Hayayim Aleinu, V'al Kol Yisrael, V'yamru, Amen. Oseh Shalom, Bimromav, Hu Yaseh Shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yamru Amen. Thank you all for being here. You did better than I did. Take it off.
The second reading is entitled The Headstone by Harry Taylor. Don't bury me up in that cemetery where I'm just a name on a stone, soon forgot and left alone, where the acid rain will erase my name and I will be just a number on a plot. Scatter part of me on that mountaintop to be part of that majestic backdrop and to mingle with the snowdrop. And take me to the woods where I can be part of a sapling. Then my cremation can become a creation, an oxygen emanating tree, breath-giving and free. Take me to the meadow. I'll be new grown grass. I'll wave in the breeze as lovers pass, or float me on the sea and let the sun glisten on me, or cast me to the winds so I can fly with the birds. Give me wings. Don't bury me up in that cemetery. I don't want that to be my lot. I don't want flowers. I know you care, for you were always there. Spread me around, if that's possible to do, but save some of me to be near you. Those two readings selected for today's remembrance reflect the incredible depth of Margie's life. The first, the mourner's Kaddish, never mentions the words death or sorrow. The Kaddish is all about blessings of life in all its fullness, in all its abundance. And that defined Margie's life. She was blessed in all its fullness and abundance. When her life was spared through much grueling treatments, she became a fervent ambassador for Dana-Farber Institute. She told her story to anyone who would listen, even those who wouldn't. She raised money for research. She even named a dog after the Institute and her doctor. If she had had a child after that, you know that a child would have been named Dana or Lee. She lived Kaddish, a life of gratitude, a life that gave back, a life that was boisterous, bold, and joyful. The second reading, The Headstone, was a poem that Margie found and gave to someone to read at a memorial service here in this sacred space. It speaks of spreading one's remains into the wind and earth and sea and keeping a small part close to one's beloved. And to all who loved her, to all who found joy in her presence, to all who laughed with her, to all who joined her on her many adventures, a part of her will always be with you in sweet memories. A part of her will always be with you whenever you confer blessing on your corner of this world, whenever you are bold and joyful. I would encourage us not to live in her shadow. I don't think that's what she would have wanted. If you are to honor her memory, live your best, bold, beautiful life. And may the blessed life be yours this day and always. Amen. Would you please stand for our closing hymn, Sleep, My Child? Sleep, my child, and peace attend you all through the night. I who love you shall be near you all through the night. Soft the drowsy hours are creeping, hill and vale in slumber sleeping. I, my loving, vigil keeping all through the night. While the moon her watch is keeping all through the night, while one half the world is sleeping all through the night. Even while the sun comes stealing, visions of the day revealing, breathes a pure and holy feeling all through the night. After the blessing, we will ask you to be seated for the postlude as I lead the family out. They will be on hand to greet you in the gathering room, where we hope you will enjoy refreshments and share more stories about Margie. The postlude is by Margie's favorite composer, Vivaldi. She made sure everyone knew that she and Vivaldi shared a birthday a few centuries apart. And now for the blessing. Into the freedom of wind and sunshine, we let you go. Into the dance of the stars and the planets, we let you go. Into the wind's breath and the hands of the star maker, we let you go. We love you. We miss you. We want you to be happy. Go safely, go dancing, go running home. Please be seated.